to hear from church leaders and engage in church leaders and with each other about many of the issues. So that is the context for our conversation tonight. We're very, very excited to have three of our Pilgrim families coming. And at this point, I would like to welcome Jim Smith, who is the facilitator of tonight's QCF, and our Pilgrim families to the dialogue. Thank you all again for joining us.
Thanks, Marianne. Hello, everybody. Thanks for all of your attendance from all across the nation. Really appreciate your being here. John Fremmel.
Hello.
From the heartland, the middle of Illinois. Great to have you.
Illinois.
We're waiting for Rosa and Claire and Leslie. There we go. All right, we're all here. Hey, everyone.
Hi.
Hi there.
We got a good crowd of attendees who are listening in, and let me remind you, as Marianne mentioned, attendees, you will have a chance to ask questions in the second half of the hour. So as those questions come to you, write them down, and you can also type them in the chat box. We won't get to them until the second half of the hour, but you will have your chance to interact with these good people. So I'm going to start with a real simple question so that we get to know you a little bit better, to tell us about your families, about the family that, whether it be your immediate family or extended family, that is your big, beautiful, diverse Catholic family, and also if any of those family members are going to be joining you at the World Meeting of Families meeting in Philadelphia. So John, let's start with you.
Sure. I actually just married my partner Rick in December of last year on the either the cutest or the most obnoxious date you could imagine, 12/13/14, and he unfortunately is not able to join us for the pilgrimage to Philadelphia, but I will be taking my mother, who has been very supportive and was just as proud as any mother could be on the day I got married. So we're a young, but hopefully in the future growing family.
You have siblings?
No, I'm an only child actually, and I was raised just by my mother as well. She did a great job as a single mother. I'm sure I put her through enough as a kid. So
thanks, John.
Yep.
Rosa, how about you?
Well, I'm part of a large extended family, rather typical Mexican family over here in Los Angeles. And I will be going alone to Philadelphia, kind of the matriarch making the journey for everyone. My immediate family, I have two daughters and a son. My two daughters are lesbian. They're both married. My oldest daughter and her wife have a new baby. She's 3 months old. And my youngest daughter and her wife have two children, a 5-year-old and a soon-to-be 3-year-old boy. So I've got two granddaughters and a grandson. Mm-hmm. And my son Andy, his claim to fame right now is all the medals he got at the Special Olympics this past Saturday.
Congratulate Andy. That's great.
Yes, I will.
And Claire and Leslie are actually together. You may not know that because they're on two screens here. They're in two separate rooms of the same home. I believe they're getting along, but we needed to separate them in order to avoid any echoes. So Claire, Leslie, take it away. Either one of you. What's your family look like? And are you both coming together to the World Meeting of Families?
We are. We're both coming together to the World Meeting of Families. We live right outside of Philadelphia, so it's a short trip for us. And just the two of us. We don't have any, although we both have siblings and our parents, they're not attending. So it'll just be the two of us. And we've been together 15 years, and we were married also in December, but we were married December 26th, 2014. And we're excited to meet everyone in person.
And you all have been meeting here and there. I mean, there have been some meetings scheduled, and there will be meetings subsequent to tonight, correct? Are you meeting once a month or once every couple of weeks via web conference?
I think it averages about a little less than once a month, I'd say.
Okay. Okay. So I want to ask, what drew you to step forward as a pilgrim for the World Meeting of Families? So let's just start with Leslie and Claire on that one. So why are you here? What drew you to this event? Claire, I can't hear you. Can the rest of you hear her?
No, she sounds like she's on mute.
Claire, how about can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Leslie,
I'll answer the question while Claire works.
Okay.
The biggest reason we got involved is Sister Janine Gramick invited us to become involved, and anybody who knows Sister Janine Gramick, when she asked, the answer is yes. The simple answer is yes. So that is the main reason we got involved. But then, in addition to that, I guess it's that old adage, you be the change that you want to see in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You waited for somebody else to do something, and then you realized that you needed to be that person. So I think that's a big reason why we became involved.
Great. Claire, let's see if we can hear you. No. We heard you before, so I'm wondering if you might need to log out and then log back in, and we'll see how that goes, okay? So we'll lose Claire momentarily. She'll come back in. Sometimes that helps if somebody is having audio issues. So Rosa, how about you? What drew you to the World Meeting of Families?
I was reading the Synod questions, the original ones, and really all the news that was coming out, and I was getting the sense, unfortunately, that they weren't talking about my family. And I wanted to make sure that the Synod of Family had a voice to speak for us and for other families like our family, and to be able to go and to say, we are just as Catholic as anybody else, and we need to be heard. And to tell you the truth, yes, for myself, but more for my children and for my grandchildren. I've always been of the opinion that I'm not leaving. I'll have to be kicked out, screaming and kicking. But for my daughters, I feel very much the sorrow that, they're Catholics, born and bred, 2 years old in nursery school all the way through high school, and yet they don't feel welcome. And that has to change, definitely.
Thank you, Rosa. Well put. John?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been a Catholic my whole life, and I've experienced the really good Catholics and the really not so good Catholics. Particularly, there have been a few sisters here in Springfield and also in Cincinnati, where I went to school, who, there's no other way I can say it, but I really experienced Christ through them. And then again, there are some Catholics like our bishop here in Springfield who have said and done some really hurtful things to the LGBT community. And I know what the church can be, and I know that we're slowly but surely working towards that direction. And so that's why I'm going, is just to continue the battle, I guess, to help the current leaders of the church realize the full potential that's there, and make sure that all voices are equally recognized at the table.
Thank you. I'm well aware that your bishop he's a tough nut to crack.
But not just mine.
No, I know, but it really is wonderful to have at least one fervent witness from the Springfield Diocese present at the World Meeting of Families. So I'm sure there will be other fervent witnesses, but they may not represent the beautiful diversity of Catholic families as you do. So thanks for showing up. Claire, did you want to add anything if we can hear you?
If you could just repeat the question, I think I missed that.
So what brings you to show up for the World Meeting of Families?
Oh, okay.
Why were you called? How were you called?
Well, as Leslie mentioned, we had been asked by Sister Janine to come, but of course it's more than that. I think for us, we have a very strong connection to our families of origin, as well as families that we've created, families that we've become close to through our church. We actually have a really nice faith community, Roman Catholic parish that we belong to. We, as Leslie will always say, we are the village, and in being the village, I just feel like our family's voices are not always heard, and I think it saddens me when I hear people who don't really know folks from our community or the gay and lesbian Catholic community who make assumptions about us, and they don't really know us. So I feel like by being there, you get to know us, and we're not really scary, and we're normal people. We get up and go to work, and we pay our taxes, and we take care of our nieces and nephews and parents and all the rest of it. So I feel like just the normalness of life is the presence I hope to bring.
Amen. Amen. Now, in your parish community, are there others that you know who are heading to the meeting? You're not that far from Philly.
That's a good question. I don't know for sure who's officially attending.
Okay. And do many folks know you two are attending from your community?
Yeah. Go ahead, Les.
Yeah, people do. We had a meeting, I guess it was last February, and there were about 25 people there from our faith community, and we talked about coming. I think a lot of people would like to attend, but they're a little hesitant because they'll be watching, so they'll be watching us.
Yeah. We can hear you, Leslie. You're a little soft, so I'm wondering if you could turn the volume up again on your computer, and we'll see if that works. But I think you said there were at least a good 25 who from your community who know you're coming, so that's good too. Claire's going to come to the aid of her spouse. Do you have any fear, as the date approaches? I mean, you will be surrounded, I'm sure, by a lot of Catholic allies at the meeting, but you will also be meeting folks who will not be comfortable with your presence once they find out sort of what you represent, what your Catholic family represents. Any fear, trepidation as you approach the date? Rosa?
It's caution, and it's caution for myself because I have a hot button, and that one is my children. And I just want to make sure that I can put myself in a place where I understand that what I'm there for is to build a bridge and to get understanding. And that bridge is not going to be built by me shoving somebody over it. It has to be built by me at least finding where is there some conversation here? Where can we understand each other somehow in order for them to see that my family is as human as any other family, and know that there's a true humility in being able to recognize each other as Catholics, that no Catholic is greater than any other Catholic and no Catholic is lesser than any other Catholic. It's not a game. What it is, it's a way of living and being able to truly call each other brother and sister, and for them to be able to see the beautiful gifts that my families have. I'm praying that I just don't lose my temper.
Very honest. Claire and Leslie, I asked if any of you have any fear or trepidation as you approach the date with your presence.
I wouldn't say I have fear. I think I liked your use of the word caution, Rosa, in that I looked online at the different workshops, and many of the presenters seem to have a similar viewpoint on theology and perspectives, and I don't know how much I share of that. So I guess my concern is, if I am a voice for our kinds of families, what kind of reactions might I face? Are people going to be hurtful or angry? And I'm hoping not. I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised by open hearts, but who knows?
You know, there were 6 pilgrims, young adults, who went to the World Youth Day in Rio de Janeiro a couple years ago. And these 6, as you're beginning to do, met on a regular basis beforehand to bond and to form community amongst themselves. And boy, did they need each other once they were down there. And there is a video of one of those pilgrims, Ellen Euclid from Chicago, who asked a question in one of the sessions. It took place in a church in Rio, and we can hear her question. And it was a very bold question that, you know, wasn't being asked, I'm sure, in most meetings around LGBTQ welcome and inclusion in the church. And she received this ovation of applause from the other young adults, from many of the young adults in that church. And the sort of answer, nothing bad. But it was really a wonderful moment. I'm so glad it was caught on tape. And I really hope you have some similar moments at the World Meeting of Families. This question is a little tougher. I'm going to ask you to illustrate, if you can, with a specific instance in which it was clear to you that the Catholic leaders or Catholic teaching doesn't understand or support your family. And if so, what did that feel like? So a specific instance where it became clear to you that Catholic leaders, in terms of what they have said, or a teaching of the church, didn't resonate with how you have experienced your family. Anybody willing to start off on that one?
Sure, I can,
John?
I guess. I don't want to harp on about the same person, but when our bishop decided to hold an exorcism on the same day at the same hour that our governor here in Illinois signed the marriage equality law, and the bishop's exorcism was for the entire state of Illinois, that was one of the most painful and hurtful experiences in the church that I can recall. And it enraged me, actually, at first, so much that I picked up the phone and I looked up the number for national DignityUSA offices, and I was soon talking on the phone with Mary Ann, and I said, you know, I can't be silent about this anymore. I have to do something. And she was so great in connecting me with fortunate families here in central Illinois. And a group of us got together outside the cathedral during the exorcism, and we held signs and we prayed and we sang. And that experience was so affirming and so life-giving, and such a positive contrast to what I had heard from the bishop just days earlier. It gave me hope. And so luckily I can say that the most painful experience was contrasted by one of the most positive experiences of church that I can remember.
That's great. I don't know if anybody else here can top that story, okay? An exorcism from your local church leadership.
Yeah,
but we'll
pretty extreme.
Claire or Leslie?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The reason my mic thing is spinning. I guess something that came to mind recently, because we are in the Philadelphia area, our parish is known for its social justice work. Our pastor was contacted by the person who was setting up the programming for the World Meeting of Families, because they were looking to add someone to the panel that I think is the only panel which consists of a gay man who chooses to be celibate and his mom are going to be on the panel. And I was very saddened when so the pastor asked one of us to call, and I called this person to try to find out what kind of person she was looking to add. And I kind of got a sense of her frustration of maybe being caught a little in the middle, but it sounded like any kind of voice that was even remotely strengths-based or positive was not welcome. And all I could hear through that was the archdiocese being very narrow in its understanding of who we are, and somehow thinking that if you had a person come in who wasn't just going to choose to be celibate, and there's nothing wrong with celibacy. I don't want, that's a choice or a gift that some people have, but it's not my gift. I mean, you know what I mean. And I just felt like I really find it sad when I get put in a box, and you're saying this box is not my reality. This isn't who we really are. And that was very hurtful to me, because I realized this one voice that I was speaking to, this person, was really reflecting this bigger load that she was carrying. So that would be an occasion that comes to mind for me.
Absolutely.
That's more recent.
Absolutely. Very saddening for all of us to see that that's what's being offered with regard diverse families with an LGBTQ presence is a celibate gay man with his mother, and like you, Claire, nothing wrong with celibacy as a gift, as a charism for some, but the fact that that's all that's represented is very sad to all of us. Leslie, anything to add?
Just one minute addendum to Claire's story.
And speak up, Leslie, because I don't think your mic is working well, so you'll just have to speak up.
Okay, let me try again. Claire's coming to that, but I'll just try and do it out. One thing that I'm going to add to Claire's story, this woman wanted a very specific, maybe a married heterosexual couple who took in gay youth when they were thrown out of their own homes. And Claire, your sister Janine's help, is able to find this perfect couple that took in youth, but the diocese was not willing to accept them because they accepted the youth and they weren't trying to change the youth to celibacy. So just one little piece of Claire's story.
Mm-hmm. And that woman, I think you're referring to Deb Word and her husband, perhaps, from Memphis. And she was on the show just a minute ago. I saw her in attendance, but she's the president, co-chair of Fortunate Families, and does remarkable ministry and service to homeless LGBT youth. And she has some stories to tell, yes, about her experience talking to the people at the World Meeting of Families. And you can find that story on the National Catholic Reporter. It came out just yesterday, I believe, detailing her struggle to get an exhibit or a table for Fortunate Families at the World Meeting of Families. So, Rosa, how about you? Sort of any incident or circumstance that sort of brought it home to you?
There's a few in the years that since my children came out to me, to the family. But the most recent thing is getting the baby baptized. And it's jumping through hoops that no one else has to jump through to get their child baptized. We jumped through those hoops with the first granddaughter. With the grandson, we thought we didn't have to anymore. We had found a place where the baptism could be registered, because we baptized in a chapel at a retreat center. Well, that pastor has died. So now we have to find another parish. And we went to 3 different churches, and all of them gave us different stories of why they couldn't do it and what we were doing wrong. And it seems like their main objection is they don't want to put on the baptismal certificate that there are 2 mothers. And it's just not right. to me, it's going after now grandchildren, the children that evidently are proof that they are family and that they are loved, and that reproduction doesn't mean necessarily a biological function. You can reproduce the love of a family without going through biological reproduction. So at this point, we finally did find a parish. It concerns me with what's going on in Philadelphia. I haven't heard all of it, and it concerns me because the cardinal, the bishop there, is Chaput. And Chaput, when he was in Colorado, he backed a school that expelled a 5-year-old from school because the 5-year-old had 2 mommies. And I'm thinking, my gosh, that's so sad when you go after little children. That is not the church that I know. That is not the faith that I was raised in. We're better than that. And I think that if there's any exorcisms that need to be done, it's the exorcism of mean-spiritedness. And it's got to go. We have to start looking at each other with true, honest love.
I so love your passion. And it just doesn't stop. It doesn't exhaust itself. So wonderful.
You know, we have Pope Francis on our side in terms of baptism, at least.
At least in terms of baptism.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think some of the guys would have heard it by now, you know?
That's another story.
So, you know, one of the primary reasons you're heading to this meeting is to have conversations with others, and you won't know where folks stand oftentimes until you begin engaging them, right? And oftentimes the paraphernalia that's brought, like the young adults brought rainbow rosaries as one of the items that they handed out. And those exchanges inspired conversations. And so I imagine you'll be having, lots of little treasures in your pockets to be offering. What are some of the conversations you think you're going to be having as you imagine these encounters at the World Meeting of Families? Have you given some thought to that? What kinds of conversations do you think you'll be having? And how might you devise ways to extend the conversation so it's not just a hi, how are you sort of thing, but turns into an exchange of some quality and content? Claire and Leslie, any thoughts? Leslie, give it a try. We could hear you okay as long as you speak up. I don't think your mic is working. You might be being heard through Claire's mic, actually. So you.
I'll try to speak loudly and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, you do a good job.
Okay. As far as meeting people is concerned, I think to me the best way to reach out to people is to listen. So I think it might sound counterintuitive, but I think I want to invite people to talk with me, and then hopefully I can meet them where they are, and for lack of a better word, convert them. I am anticipating that some people will be very challenging, but I also feel like the youth that you mentioned as an example, that they probably weren't expecting people to cheer when they heard that question.
Right.
And I do know that people tend to be more positive than we think they're going to be. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to listen, and then I'll quietly try to convert them.
So Leslie is going to listen and then do her best to convert, though she says that's perhaps not the best word she could use, right? Thank you. Claire, want to add to that?
I tend to be more backdoor. So talking to people, so who are you here with? Who's your family? Oh, this is my family. Do you know any families like ours, or even just being that confrontational about it? I guess I hadn't thought a whole lot about what will I say when people are actually there, other than to start, trying to be engaging and welcoming, and have people come to just see, oh, you're a person at this conference first, and then kind of opening that door of, and by the way, what about gay families, or, so that there's not this defensiveness. Like, I feel like if I come in and I've got rainbow all over me, people are not going to like talk back to me. They might walk away from me. I don't know. I have to give it some more thought. If you know, Joe and Mary Byers frequently have rainbow fish pins that they wear and give to people. So I don't know. I might have to talk to them about sharing some of their pins.
Those things can really spark conversation. You may be surprised. John or Rosa, any thoughts about what those conversations are going to look like?
When I was working, I'm retired now. I actually got my own office at one point. It was a big deal. And I saw how people decorated their offices, and they had family photos all over the place. So I put my family photos up. And that started conversation with folks. Sometimes it was uncomfortable for them when there was work being done concerning Proposition 8 here in California. Some of the secretaries very honestly gave their opinions. They didn't know who I was or my family background. And the opinion of one person in particular was not particularly welcoming. And when she came into my office and she asked, who's that? My daughter, and who's that? My daughter's wife. She kind of stiffened for a while, but I didn't jump all over her. If anything, we started talking more and more about our families. And, it was kind of like, okay, I won't hurt you, you won't hurt me, let's talk about our families. I'm kind of hoping something like that can happen in Philadelphia. My oldest granddaughter loves art. And one of the things that she has done has been constantly make pictures of her family, her two mommies, her dog, her brother, herself, me. And I'm going to look for one of those pictures in particular and see if there's anything I can do to make it into card size, something that may not be too expensive that I could share with others, and just start a conversation about a family and let them know this is what my grandchildren think their family looks like, and if you'll notice, they're all happy in the sunshine. So I'll ask for their prayers, whoever I'm talking to, and I'll ask them to pray for me and for my family.
That's wonderful. What a great idea. What a great idea. I want to open it up for questions from our attendees at this point. So we're coming to that time where you'll have a chance to ask questions yourself. So anybody, I haven't seen a question here. Wait a minute. From Brian Kelly from San Diego. How is Pope Francis, quote, on our side with regard to baptism of kids and LGBT families? So, John, do you want to expand on that?
Sure. I don't know all of the details, but I read an article a couple weeks ago in which Pope Francis said that basically baptism should not be denied to any child, regardless of the situation in which that child finds him or herself. That's not an endorsement for LGBT families, of course, but it's the best we can hope for at this point.
Thank you. Other questions? I've got some on my sleeve here, but that I can ask. But please, in the meantime, folks, give some thought to what you want to ask these future pilgrims to the World Meeting of Families. So how about this? You know, we know the Pope is coming to Philly. You know, what if perchance you met him outside a restroom or a restaurant? What would you say to him? Rosa, you probably wouldn't be speechless.
Well, I mean, he's a Latino. I'm a Latina. You know, for me, what we do, I would invite him to my home. I mean, it's not being brotherly or sisterly or Christian to be talking about each other. We have to be talking to each other. And what better way than to come over to my home? I'm sure he has the resources better than for me to go to Rome. You know, come over to my home, eat with my family, get to see what our family is like, get to know us. Because that's the first step. That's the very first step. Get to see how the family interacts. It may be completely different from what you are being told or from what you think.
Amen. Thank you. Claire, you're now Leslie. Leslie.
We were having technical difficulties, so Claire is working on the other. So we're just mixing things up.
Good. That's great. That's great. So what would you say to Pope Francis if you ran into him?
Would you like to go first, Claire? Okay. I think the first thing that I would say to him is that I pray for you on a regular basis. I think he would appreciate that. Mm-hmm. I would definitely thank him for bringing hope and a breath of fresh air to our church. And I think that I would ask him to continue to reach out to those of us who feel marginalized and on the fringe. I think I would ask him to be brave and really, really reach out and embrace those of us who are marginalized.
I love that. So invite him to some bravery.
Yes.
That's cool. That's very cool. John or Claire?
Yeah, I think the Pope is being brave on some things and not so much on other things, and so I would go off of what you just said and encourage him to be more clear about some things too. He's a very vague Pope in many ways, and I mean, when he was on the plane talking to reporters and the subject of gay priests was brought up and he said, "Who am I to judge?" Well, what do you mean by that, really? What do you mean by that? What's the next step after that, that kind of statement? And when on the one hand you're opposing marriage equality or you're referring to LGBT Catholic families as immoral or disordered, and the church refers to adoption by same-sex couples as doing violence to children. But at the same time, you're saying that nobody who asks for baptism should be denied. Again, well, if that's the case, let's go forward with that. Let's draw this to its logical conclusion. Let's not stop. Let's not stop there. So I would try to get more answers from him in that regard, I guess.
If you're not too tongue-tied.
Right.
Deb from Memphis, Deb Word, who is, again, co-chair of the Fortunate Families organization, says that she assumes that we all have a gay family member or a transgender family member or someone we care about. The World Meeting of Family folks might be shy about bringing it up. So I think I understand the comment that perhaps we should presume that a lot of these folks have an LGBT family member or friend or coworker, and perhaps that can be the common ground, or just to presume that folks aren't going to be in the dark, and that there will be some resonance shared in exchange and encounter. That's a really good point. And I think Leslie brought that up herself. Not to to presume goodness before presuming hostility. Let's see if we've got any other questions coming here. I'm scrolling down. Michelle thanks you for representing all of us who are different, and she will keep you all in her prayers. And Deb reaffirms, they are us, those folks at the World Meeting of Families. I'm not seeing any other questions at this point. I might go to one of my own. Claire and Leslie, it sounds like you have some really fine support in your parish in Pennsylvania. Rosa, can you speak a little bit about your faith community in Southern California there? And how they are supportive?
It is interesting. In my own parish, it's more of a don't ask, don't tell type of a feeling. Los Angeles has an Opus Dei archbishop, and I think pastors and pastoral associates and people whose positions are their paychecks are a little leery of what they are doing. It isn't so much that we're told that we're not supported. It's simply, we're not put in the forefront, in other words.
Yeah.
On the other hand, those people that I have known for years, before this archbishop ever came around, are very supportive, and those are select clergy. And from what I have seen that may be of interest to a time that we're living in, a Pope Francis time, their interests are more pastoral than doctrinal. And so for them, that, the fact that I have children that are lesbian, that's not the main focus of our life. The main focus of our life is, what are we doing for the poor? What are we doing for the immigrants? What are we doing for the imprisoned? If that's not being taken care of, then everything else means we're just fighting over, who's right and who's wrong. But unfortunately, the institutional church here in Los Angeles, no, there's no real support.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you. John, you want to tackle that?
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of a funny question for me to answer because I find myself in the midst of, I would say, 3 different faith communities right now. I do attend Mass on a bi-monthly basis at a small intentional Eucharistic community that's led by a Roman Catholic woman priest, and of course, I'm totally out there. I bring my partner Ricky with me, and the support is phenomenal in that community. There are some weekends when we don't have Mass there that I will attend a local parish here in Springfield, and I won't say which one, but it is a very progressive parish, and individually there are a few people who know my full story, I guess, and are very welcoming. But I'd say overall, even though the priest is more progressive and the parish itself is more progressive, you still kind of have to keep things under wraps because it is 2 miles from the main cathedral, which is obviously a little bit more conservative. But also, I have recently started exploring the possibility of becoming a lay Dominican associate in partnership with the local Dominican sisters here in Springfield. And there are a few sisters there who also know my full story and are some of the kindest, most pastoral Catholics that I've come across, and are incredibly welcoming. I attended Mass there on Sunday, actually, and went up to communion and took communion from one of the sisters. and just the look on her face when she handed me the Eucharist, and the way she paused and kind of took my hand for a second was a phenomenal experience. It's hard to put to words, but so I find a lot of support in that group of sisters as well.
I'm glad you have that.
Yeah, I'm lucky. Most LGBT Catholics don't. So
yeah. I'm going to segue to another question, and Claire, I'm going to ask you first. What do you hope to come away with from your experience?
I guess I'm hoping to come away with a sense of hope. Like I said earlier about, I'm hoping to meet people like the person that you mentioned in Rio who find that there's a lot of like-minded folks who are going to stand up and clap for that person, not for me, but that I find that there's actually like hearts and like minds of people who say, you know what, we don't get what the problem is, or we don't understand what the challenge is. I'm really excited about, first of all, meeting face-to-face the people, even the other pilgrims, but also meeting people from around the world. I just think that's just going to be such a wonderful opportunity, and to hear some of the struggles. And I'm hoping it informs my understanding of different cultures and some of the struggles that people are having. I mean, I think for a lot of people, and I'm not saying it's not important because obviously it is, that's why I'm going, but I think a lot of people are worrying about where their bread and butter is going to come from and how they're going to raise their children and what's, where they're going to get clothing. And here we are, rejecting gay Catholics because they're gay. It makes no sense. I think there are such huge issues. I hope I can connect with people around some of those things that really matter. And I don't mean that we don't matter. I do mean, obviously I believe that.
Absolutely.
I just think there's so much more need that we can connect on. And
yes.
I'm not articulating it well, but I'm hoping to meet people.
You are.
And caring.
Yeah. You are. Both you and Rosa, I think, bring just a fabulous, valuable point to the discussion. And Jim suggests that you all come back after the World Meeting of Families to tell of your experiences. Is Leslie in the room? Perhaps she could just use your screen and your headphone to answer the question. And in the meantime, let's go to Rosa. Rosa, what do you hope to take from your experience to bring back?
I'm hoping to make it an easier conversation for some families. Something I recently learned in this past year was that when a child comes out to their parent, it's not just the child coming out of the closet, but it's the parent too.
Yeah.
Because now the parent needs to deal with something that maybe they haven't been dealing with before. Mm-hmm. And maybe that parent wasn't ready to come out of that closet yet. So I'm hoping with the conversations to make that a little bit easier, something more normal for some of the parents. I'm hoping to bring some healing to our church. Our families are so important to us as Catholics. It's important to us as Latinos to have our families whole. And when we're forced to choose between an institution and our families, that's very damaging. And it has to stop. Feeling that children have to be thrown out into the street in order to be right with the church has got to stop. It's cruel. It's not right. And I'm hoping that eventually we will understand that the homophobia in our church, it doesn't come alone. Where there's homophobia, there's sexism. Where there's sexism, there's homophobia. And those two twins seem to be the hardest thing for our institutional church to tackle. And I'm really hoping that with our conversation, we'll be pushing that conversation in the church itself a little bit more forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi again, Leslie. Good to have you back. Well, I'm going to ask the question of John so that you know what the question is. And that is, what do you hope to bring take from or bring back from your experience?
Yeah, I want to approach this as not just a pilgrimage where I tell my story, but I really want to remember that I also have two ears to listen with And so I hope to listen to the stories of other pilgrims and other Catholics, even if I don't agree with them necessarily all the way. I don't think any Catholic with a good heart is truly intending harm on other people. And even though the results of their actions sometimes are incredibly harmful and painful, that's not what they're intending. And so I think it'll be a good practice for me to do some listening as well, and to see where they're coming from, and but also, like I said, to share my story. And I think we do some of the most learning through storytelling and hearing each other's experiences. And so I just hope to absorb as much as I can. I hope to grow in my prayer life. I hope to grow in my relationship with my mother too, since I can't forget I'm going with her as well. So, you know.
Thank you. Thank you. Leslie.
I did hear mostly everything that Rosa said, and I certainly heard what John said, and I do agree. I think that because I'm from Philadelphia, I am looking at this not quite so globally, but more locally. And in Philadelphia, and I know this is a microcosm of what's happening all over, we have some parishes that are growing in leaps and bounds. They tend to be in the more affluent areas. And then we have parishes that are dying, and they tend to be the inner city parishes. And unfortunately, at least from my perspective in the Philadelphia area, these affluent parishes that are growing in leaps and bounds in many cases are very, very conservative. And the parishes like the parish, Claire and I, our parish is in Germantown, Philadelphia. It takes us 45 minutes to an hour to get there because it's pretty far from our home, but it's where we are welcome. And I would kind of like to build a bridge between these very wealthy but conservative suburban parishes and these inner city pockets that are open. Rosa, when you mentioned about trying to get your grandchildren baptized and what a challenge that was, in St. Vincent's, we only have baptisms a couple times a year because it's such a big community event and for the whole church. But I have to say, every year there are at least 2, maybe 3 children of gays and lesbians who are baptized, and it's so much a part of the community. And somehow or another, I want to get that message out to these parishes that I don't think are seeing this beautiful, beautiful part of our church. And as I said, to me, it's more of a local goal, but I'm sure that it reflects globally on the church as well.
Excellent, thank you. I'm gonna bring up a slide here, folks, asking the question for our attendees in particular: what can we do to support these pilgrims? Now, there are 14 households, some 30 people who are attending from our Equally Blessed coalition. And these are some of the things that we can do to support them. So I just want to take a second here to give some time to this, because this is really important. And I take this off of the website that you see at the bottom of that slide. It's the Equally Blessed website, but it is with a little bit of a twist. It's wmf.equallyblessed.org. WMF, as in World Meeting of Families, equallyblessed.org. So on that website dedicated to the World Meeting of Families Pilgrims, you can see their profiles and photos. You can certainly pray for them, as some have promised already on this show. You can donate rainbow-themed items or pamphlets that pilgrims can hand out. Very important sort of conversation starters, for sure. And you can talk to Christine, our coordinator, at that address about how to do this. And you can donate funds. We need to raise some $40,000, and we've got a bit of that already raised, but we need to raise more to help support the costs that are included in this. And you can't click here to make a contribution. You'll have to go to the website to do that. And then follow the blog. That's also on that particular web page of the website, okay? So I'm going to invite Marianne back to the show here so that she can wrap it up. And I've been just thrilled to be able to engage with all of you. I wish I could join you and listen in to some of the conversations that you'll be having.
Yes, Jim, thanks for conducting once again a fabulous conversation, and I'm so thrilled. I am going to get to spend a week with these and our other pilgrims, as my family and I will be joining the pilgrimage as well. Yes, please, folks, thank you so much to all of you who shared. Thank you for participating. Please do go to the wmf.equallyblessed.org website and get to know all of the pilgrims who are going to be representing us and our work in Philadelphia this fall. Please spread the word about it and help us prepare by supporting us with prayers and your involvement in lots of ways. Once again, to all of the pilgrims, thank you for sharing your stories, your hopes, your dreams, and for all that you're doing to get ready for this. It really is being approached as a pilgrimage. We're trying to prepare ourselves spiritually for this journey as well. As always, I'm going to ask that immediately upon the completion of this webinar, you'll be sent a survey. Please fill it in. We did get a suggestion to bring the pilgrims back next year after the conclusion. If you'd like to see that, put it on the survey. Tell us about your experience. Would also like to encourage everybody to remember that the Dignity USA convention is going to be happening less than 2 months from now, July 2nd through 5th in Seattle. If you have not registered and are planning to do that, please do so soon, and especially make your hotel reservation soon because the hotel is filling up and we have a limited time left to get the convention rate. Also, please continue to follow our Facebook app and Facebook and Twitter, particularly as Give Out Day approaches on Thursday. This is an opportunity for us to join with hundreds of others LGBTQ organizations and show the power, the financial power of our community and how important it is to invest in the work of justice and equality for LGBT people. So please give on or before Give Out Day. We have a generous donor who has come forward offering to match up to $3,000 in gifts. So your money will go twice as far. So just a reminder about that. And again, you see this wonderful image, no second-class families here. Be part of this work, join the movement, join Dignity. Thank you again, everyone, for participating, and especially to Rosa, Leslie, Claire, John, and Jim for a fantastic conversation. Again, don't close your browser.
Thank you.
It'll take you just a few seconds to complete the survey, and we value your input. Good night, everyone.